If 10,000 people divorce and 5,000 people regret it, that means that 50% of them regret getting a divorce, and that is statistics offered to us by Terry Gaspar. Now, 50% of the people who regret getting a divorce, what can we do to preempt that strike? Well, what we can do is work on why people are unhappy, how they can communicate, and what they can do in order to better their relationships. This is not a difficult thing to do when we know how to use certain tools. We go in and we dig deep. In my experience, I have saved hundreds and hundreds of relationships. There's something to be said about that. Not only does divorce destroy families, breaks children apart from their parents, but it also drains your assets. A divorce usually takes, on average, 50 hours. If you pay $300 to $500 an hour, do the math, times about 50. That's a lot of money. And what happens is you need 2 attorneys, each paid $300 to $500 an hour. Well, where does that money come from? The money comes from your bank account, from the marital assets. And when an attorney sees all of your assets, they know what the case is worth. They will go on and on and on until the case is drained. And then they tell you to settle. Now, how do I know this? From my own divorce experience. It drained us emotionally, physically, financially. Then that's when I decided something has to be done about this. There has to be a way to stop it. And the way to stop it is to go to somebody like myself and learn the art of mediation and negotiation. Now, whether you stay together or not, you will learn how to communicate in a more effective manner. In many cases, when we start talking and we stop fighting and we discuss and address the hurt in the room, the relationship then starts to shift. And that is very powerful. Now, when we do the divorce math, we come out with this astronomical number. Well, if you were to work with somebody like me, you're only paying per session. Maybe we spend 10 hours together. You can work with one mediator, and that's the beauty of working with me. I have been called the mediator who saves relationships. It's never too late. You can salvage a relationship that is totally damaged. How could you do that? It takes 2 people, 2, not 1, 2 people to dig deep, to try to work together, to salvage, repair, and move on, even when there's infidelity. The only thing that I can say that I will not address is domestic violence, because I do not work with people where domestic violence is involved. That is something that's extremely serious. I take very seriously, and I won't mediate that. When working with people that are going through difficult times, I have found that there are 5 stages of grief. I call it divorce grief that people go through. Patients that were dying from diseases would go through similar stages of grief. What are those stages? Those stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. If a patient was able to live long enough, hopefully they would get to acceptance of their condition. Many times people get stuck. You may never get to the acceptance stage. Some people stay in the anger stage. These stages flow, they ebb and they flow. When I apply this to divorce mediation or couples mediation, marriage mediation, what I do is I help a couple see that there is a grief process that is involved in this. There is tremendous hurt. You hurt me, I hurt you. We have to level the playing field. We have to understand that denial usually happens when somebody is faced with a life crisis. They don't want to see it. It's just, it might be happening, but I just don't want to see it. Maybe I'll sweep it under the rug, and if I don't address it, it might not be there. But what happens is then the rug starts to get a big bump in it. And then we're like, oh my God, this is really happening. They think it will magically go away. Then comes the anger stage. Anger is caused by hurt. When we feel hurt, we have a response, and that response is normally anger. It takes a lot of inner strength to understand that I'm angry because I am hurt. People start retaliating and become resentful towards each other and try to really destroy the very essence of who the other person is. And that all stems from the feelings of hurt. I'm going to destroy you because you hurt my feelings. When people get stuck in anger, it is very difficult for them to get out of that situation. It's kind of like spinning your wheels, your tires in mud. You just spin and you're not getting anywhere. I help couples go through the process of expressing why they are hurt. Now, the other person may not agree with it, but that's how they feel. You don't have to say, oh, you're right, I'm wrong. It's, I don't agree with you, but I can understand how you feel. Now that you say it that way, now that you're not yelling at me and cursing at me, I can understand that I may have said something that hurt your feelings. Now what we do is we take that and we say, all right, if I keep doing what you tell me hurts your feelings, then I'm doing it on purpose. When I do something on purpose, it's intentional. So we have to dig deep and find out, why do we keep doing things when somebody tells us it hurts their feelings? It's almost like we don't care, but you should care. If it's a simple thing like taking your shoes off when you come into somebody's house, you walk in and someone says, oh, do you mind taking your shoes off? You go, oh, sure, I'll do it next time. The next time comes, you walk into the house, person says, you know, do you mind taking your shoes off? Oh, yeah, I will. And then they come in again and they walk in the house. Now, I'm going to say, you're doing that on purpose. You don't respect my feelings. I've asked you several times to take your shoes off. You may not agree. I walk around my house with my shoes on. Okay, that's fine. But you have to understand how I feel. You may not agree that you should take your shoes off, but you're coming into my house. It would make me feel better. It would make me feel respected. And it's such a simple thing to ask. Many relationships just get into a lot of trouble when people feel that they're not being heard, when people feel that they're being disrespected. And it could be something so simple like taking your shoes off that can spiral and roll and just gather speed into this thing of, you did this, I asked you to take your shoes off, and I asked you that, and you didn't do this. It just snowballs. There are ways to stop it in its tracks, and that's something that I do with my couples, is that I help them understand that when a party or a person asks you for something, you may not agree. As long as it's reasonable, why not do it? Why not do it? It will help stop so many problems. Now, the other stage is called bargaining. Bargaining is, maybe I should have cleaned up after myself. Maybe, shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's bargaining where we are saying, I should have been a better person. If I were a better person, then my spouse would love me. If I were a better person, I wouldn't be in this situation. This is where narcissism comes in, because when you divorce a narcissist, they are very good at making you feel that you're wrong. When we feel that we're wrong, we start bargaining. Oh, if I just would have not nagged him or her about bringing her shoes into the house. That's ridiculous, because you should be able to express yourself in a relationship as long as it's not to the demise of the other person's self-esteem. We do not want to chop down a person, especially somebody that we fell in love with. If we can get back to the person that you were at the beginning of the relationship by sifting through some of this rubble, relationships can get back on track. There is hope. I've seen it happen. Sometimes they feel that no matter what they do, they can't stop this. They get depressed. Depression is part of the process. It's not always an unhealthy thing. It can also be a springboard for a rejuvenation of oneself or the relationship. If we can talk about what led us to defeat, why do I feel depressed? Why do I feel this way? It's usually because somebody feels that no matter what they tried, they might as well just give up. It's just not going to work. It's like, this is doomed. That's not true. Giving up usually happens when somebody feels that they've tried everything they possibly could to salvage a relationship. We've gone to couples counseling, we've gone to a religious counseling, we've gone to seminars, we've read self-help books, we've talked to friends, we've talked to neighbors, but you didn't talk to me. You haven't talked to me yet. What I say to people, let's go through some of this. We start unraveling this grief process, and then we can really dig down and do the work that we need to do. Now, acceptance. That's the final stage. Some people will never get to acceptance. Some people hold on to anger like it's this thing that's like, no, I'm not letting go. And they stay in that anger stage. Some people vacillate between anger, bargaining, denial, depression. They go through, sometimes it's okay, all right, I accept this. It takes a while to complete the grief process. In my experience, not many people can do this on their own because they get stuck. They don't have the tools to have self-reflection and understand another person's point of view because we're so involved in our own hurt that it's very hard to see the other person's point of view. It's not about being right or wrong. It's just about positioning and just moving around the room a little bit and looking outside of yourself and stop blaming. Again, when you're involved with a narcissist, this process most times doesn't work because a narcissist is unable to see that their behavior may have caused some of the damage in the relationship. Let's go on a journey now. We could take a case study, we could figure this out, but in the long run, we have two people that are not happy, and every day it's the same thing. It's one thing after another. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. You're this, you're that. You did this, I did that. No, I did it. Yes, you did. We start taking notes. We start making an entire list of things that other person did that makes us so unhappy. It's their fault. I wouldn't act like this if you didn't act like that. I'm only reacting to you. It's a whole litany. It's a list. It's a rehearsed plan in somebody's head about how another person has offended us. And that causes us to react. That causes us to lash out. If somebody is an alcoholic and they have a bad day, well, I had a bad day, so I can have a drink. If you're not an alcoholic, you might go to the gym. You might do something healthy to release that feeling. Well, it works that way here. We learn to do things in a healthy manner, how to express oneself in a healthy manner without blaming and cursing and bullying and you and you and you. That makes people really unhappy. And guess what? Then your children are watching this and they are learning from you how couples get along or don't get along. They are sitting there day after day, hour after hour. They are absorbing this and they can't leave. They're stuck sitting there watching the two of you. Then we wonder, gee, why do our kids have such messed up lives? Hello. It's because they watched us. Now, the good news is that we can change our patterns and we can start teaching them better patterns. Whether you stay together or not, it is very important for your children to see that, oh, mom and dad don't fight anymore. Isn't that nice? They can actually sit together and watch us perform, and one's not over there and the other one's not over there, and they're not giving each other dirty looks and talking about each other. Wouldn't that be nice? It would be nice. It would be nice for your children. And you can definitely do it because you will understand why it's so damaging to children for parents to be at each other's throats and to complain to children. You don't want your children to have to choose between the two of you. Again, a narcissist will cause havoc. They don't care if their children are unhappy. As long as they turn that child against you, they don't care. They have to win. Remember that. It's not about winning or losing. It's about just being civil. You don't have to like the other person, but you do have to parent for the rest of your lives, and the rest of their lives will be dependent upon how you parented them, how they see you treat another person.